Since the police shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin, we've seen a new surge in the activism surrounding racial justice. And last night, the protests moved from the streets to the bubble.
Mass protests by pro-athletes taking a major stance demanding justice over the police shooting of Jacob Blake. The Milwaukee Bucks sparked a basketball boycott and a chain reaction throughout the sports world.
Overnight, the NBA paused the playoffs, this empty court speaking volumes as the Milwaukee Bucks players refused to take the court against the Orlando Magic last night just before tip-off.
Despite the overwhelming plea for change, there has been no action. So our focus today cannot be on basketball.
The Bucks spoke by phone with some of Wisconsin's elected officials, and afterwards they released a collective statement calling for change. They want the police officers involved in the shooting held accountable, and they're also calling on the Wisconsin state legislature to address police brutality and social justice reform.
That's right. In an unprecedented move, the NBA had to postpone its playoff games after the players went on strike. Which, don't get it twisted, is a really big deal. This shit is so radical, it makes Colin Kaepernick look moderate. I bet right now, somewhere out there's an old racist guy like, I miss the good old days when they would take a knee, but at least they'd show up for work. And massive props to these athletes for using their platform to bring attention to what's happening in the streets. Because when you think about it, sports doesn't stop for anything. So when sports does shut down, people take notice. Like, do you guys remember that time aliens landed on Earth? Yeah, of course you don't remember, because it was the playoffs. I'm also glad that this movement was started by the players and not by the league. Because you know the league would have just put out a "let's dunk on racism" poster and called it a day. And a lot of people were impressed that NBA players were willing to come together to make a stand like this. Although, predictably, there were some people who didn't see it that way.
After November 3rd, if they don't like the election, if Donald Trump wins, are they going to boycott the next game? Is football going to follow? Are we going to play sports by what's in the news every day?
They're going to get fans and they will never come back, like myself. So they're hurting
the fans
themselves.
Are saying no.
The NBA players are very fortunate that they have the financial position where they're able to take a night off from work without having to have the consequences to themselves financially.
I think that it's nice that they're standing up for the issue, but I'd like to see them start moving into concrete solutions that are productive.
Okay guys, I'm a little confused. Are NBA players supposed to just shut up and dribble, or literally fix racism all by themselves? Either way, it feels like America relies way too much on their athletes to do everything. They're supposed to play basketball, fix racism, sell cereal, and date all the Kardashians. And I like how Jared just tried to insinuate that NBA players shouldn't complain because they're well paid. First of all, Jared, they're rich because they're the best at what they do, okay? Why are you rich? What are you the best at, other than looking like a Victorian ghost? And also, rich people shouldn't complain? Your boss father is a rich guy who does nothing but complain. Get the fuck out of here, man. It's always interesting how Republicans choose which rich people get to complain about politics. Because if you're liberal with money, they say that you need to shut up and just be grateful for what you have. But if you're a conservative with money, then they're like, well, you're the one person who should complain because you know more than these broke-ass bitches. And as for Mr. Are we going to play sports by what's in the news every day? Yeah, why not? I mean, we already do that with the weather. If we can have a rain delay, we sure as hell can have a police brutality delay. Let's move on now to the other ongoing crisis. Coronavirus, the biggest fashion influencer of 2020. For months now, the CDC has been saying that the key to getting the pandemic under control is testing, testing, and more testing. And then yesterday, something changed.
After months of telling Americans that if they're exposed to someone with the coronavirus that they should get tested, the CDC is now saying there's no need in most cases if you have no symptoms. And the New York Times is reporting that the change was ordered from the top down by the president, who believes that bad numbers are meant to hurt his re-election campaign and has said over and over that more tests drive up the numbers of COVID-19 cases. The nation's top infectious disease doctor, Anthony Fauci, says this was done without him. He was under anesthesia and surgery when this was approved.
This is the shadiest thing I have ever seen. President Trump is apparently sabotaging America's coronavirus response because he doesn't like the look of high case numbers? This guy's special. Because clearly he doesn't care if a problem is solved. He only cares if it has the appearance of being solved. I wouldn't be shocked if all the fire extinguishers in these buildings are just painted on. We need to get, who would do this? Who would do this? And if that wasn't bad enough, they waited until Dr. Fauci was having surgery before they did this. Guys, come on, man. I can't believe that Trump went behind Fauci's back while the man was in the hospital. That's like cheating on your wife while she's pregnant, which Trump also did, so never mind, I guess I can believe it. Although, now it finally makes sense why Trump kept offering to buy Fauci a boob job. I think you should consider it, Anthony. A lot of people will pay more attention to you. In fact, just thinking about it, I'm paying more attention to you right now. So big. But this is why, my friends, from now on, we cannot afford to have Fauci unconscious for any reason. No surgery, no sleep, no watching Mike Pence give a speech, nothing that knocks you out. At the very least, if Fauci is incapacitated, we need like a mini Vice Fauci who can take over at any time. And finally, while America is still dealing with coronavirus, racism, and economic depression, it wouldn't be 2020 if we couldn't squeeze in at least one more catastrophe.
This morning, Hurricane Laura making landfall. The storm slamming the Gulf Coast, with Lake Charles, Louisiana, right in the bullseye. More than 100,000 already without power as the coastline is battered by powerful wind gusts and sheets of rain.
You can see the winds shredding this skyscraper. Whole building is going apart. Watch as this RV was flipped onto its side as the storm moves in. Power lines just littering the streets and igniting. Power surges leading to this massive fire.
This reporter in Texas almost hit by a falling power line.
In a river. Oh, that's not good.
The rain is hitting so hard that it legitimately feels like rock. I mean, it stings your face, it stings your skin, anything that you have exposed. It really hurts, okay?
This was a Confederate monument that the city voted not to take down, but as you can see, Hurricane Laura has ripped it to the ground.
Damn, this was insane. The Gulf Coast was hit by one of the biggest hurricanes in years. And I'm honestly glad that it started dissipating quickly. But I'm also glad that it knocked down that Confederate statue on the way out. Because Republicans don't believe in climate change. But they do believe in cancel culture. So if weather is tearing down their statues, maybe now they'll finally do something to stop it. It's time to cut down carbon emissions because I'm sick of these PC storms telling Americans who we should be. So, props to Hurricane Laura for ripping down that statue. Although, you know, next week, Hurricane Karen's gonna roll in and call the cops on her for doing it.